Rain lashed against the cab windows, blurring the world outside into streaks of gray and black. Eleanor, clutching her inheritance papers, felt a shiver run down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. The old mansion loomed before her, a silhouette against the stormy sky, more menacing than welcoming. Lightning flashed, momentarily illuminating the house in a ghastly white light, and Eleanor could have sworn she saw a face in one of the top-floor windows. The cab screeched to a halt, the sound swallowed by the howling wind. "This is it then," the driver mumbled, his voice tinged with unease as he hefted Eleanor's suitcase onto the rain-soaked driveway. She paid him, a strange mix of apprehension and curiosity bubbling within her. The estate agent's words echoed in her ears. "Your uncle, a man of peculiar tastes, left everything to you." As she stepped out of the cab, the rain felt like icy needles against her skin. The iron gates groaned open, revealing a path overgrown with weeds leading to the imposing oak front door. A gust of wind slammed the cab door shut with a resounding clang, making Eleanor jump. She was alone. Taking a deep breath, Eleanor started towards the house, each step bringing her closer to the secrets whispered within the old mansion's walls. A sudden crack of thunder echoed through the air, and the front door creaked open as if beckoning her inside. The air inside was heavy with the smell of mildew and dust, a testament to years of neglect. Cobwebs hung like macabre decorations from every corner, and the only light came from the flashes of lightning that illuminated the cavernous hall in brief, unsettling bursts. The storm raged outside, the wind howling like a banshee, but inside an unsettling silence reigned. Eleanor fumbled for a light switch, her fingers brushing against something cold and slimy. With a shudder she flicked the switch, but the bulb only flickered weakly before dying completely, plunging her back into darkness. A wave of dizziness washed over her, the metallic scent in the air suddenly overpowering. She coughed, using the dim light from her phone to navigate deeper into the mansion. Each room she passed seemed to exude a palpable sense of unease. Furniture lay draped in dust sheets, resembling ghostly figures in the flickering light. A grandfather clock stood frozen in time, its hands pointing accusingly at the stroke of midnight. As she walked, floorboards groaned beneath her feet, and whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. They were faint, indistinct whispers of a language she couldn't understand. A cold draft brushed against her neck and she spun around, her heart pounding, but saw nothing. Eleanor found herself drawn to a room at the end of the hallway. Its door, unlike the others, stood slightly ajar, a sliver of dim light escaping from within. As she pushed it open, a musty metallic scent wafted out, making her wrinkle her nose. The room was sparsely furnished, dominated by a large, ornate mirror that hung on the far wall. The mirror was a thing of beauty and menace, its silver frame tarnished with age, yet its surface eerily clear. As Eleanor approached, she noticed something peculiar. Her reflection, it wasn't quite right. It was as if a shadow moved beneath her skin, distorting her features into a grotesque mockery. She reached out to touch the mirror's surface, her fingers meeting cold, smooth glass. The unsettling feeling intensified. Suddenly, a voice, barely a whisper, sent chills down her spine. "Eleanor," it breathed, seeming to come from the mirror itself. Eleanor whirled around, her heart hammering in her chest. But the room was empty. Had she imagined it? Her eyes darted back to the mirror, her reflection now perfectly normal, but the feeling of being watched lingered. Stepping away from the unsettling mirror, Eleanor noticed an old journal lying open on a dusty table nearby. It was filled with frantic scribblings, diagrams, and unsettling sketches. Intrigued, she picked it up, her fingers tracing the faded ink. The journal belonged to her uncle. Section 4. The Attic's Secrets. The journal was a window into a world of dark obsession. Her uncle, it turned out, wasn't just an eccentric recluse. He was obsessed with the supernatural, convinced that he could pierce the veil between worlds. The entries detailed bizarre experiments, rituals conducted under the light of the full moon, and desperate attempts to contact something. Eleanor flipped through the pages, her unease growing with each turn. Sketches of shadowy figures, grotesque creatures with too many eyes, and symbols she didn't recognize filled the pages. One entry in particular made her blood run cold. It described a ritual, a summoning, conducted in this very house that had gone horribly wrong. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the mansion, followed by the sound of shattering glass. The journal slipped from Eleanor's grasp, falling to the floor with a thud. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. The scream, it sounded like it came from upstairs, from the attic. Gathering her wits, Eleanor slowly made her way out of the room and towards the attic door at the end of the hallway. The whispers seemed louder now, more insistent, urging her forward. With a deep breath, she pushed open the attic door, her hand trembling. The attic was a cavernous space, filled with shadowy shapes and the musty scent of decay. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight filtering through grimy windows, and the air hung thick with a palpable sense of dread. And then she saw it, a figure standing in the shadows, its back to her. "Hello?" Eleanor called out, her voice trembling slightly. The figure turned and Eleanor gasped. Its face was obscured by the shadows, but she could make out the glint of eyes, cold and malevolent, staring back at her. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, as if on cue, a deafening clap of thunder shook the house, and the figure lunged. Eleanor screamed, scrambling back in terror. She turned to run, her heart pounding against her ribs, but the figure was faster. It darted through the shadows, its movements unnaturally fluid, its cold, rasping breath hot on her neck. Eleanor dodged and weaved through the maze of forgotten furniture, her pursuer always right behind. She could hear the creature's guttural growls, feel its icy breath on her skin. It was toying with her, herding her deeper into the bowels of the mansion. A wave of despair washed over her. She was trapped, hunted within the walls of her inheritance, and the shadows themselves seemed to conspire against her.